Hi, I'm Gabriella. My life was once defined by hurt, betrayal, pain, and the belief that love was something to fear. I thought I would never be able to move forward, but God had a different plan for me. In her treasured love, you'll walk alongside me as I navigate the complexities of healing from past wounds and learn what it means to embrace the love God offers, even when I felt unworthy. It's a story of overcoming fear, finding restoration, and learning to trust again. New chapters will be uploaded every Thursday, so be sure to subscribe and stay connected. After listening, feel free to leave a comment and share your thoughts. And if you know someone who could benefit from this story, please share it with them. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. Gabriella, Sophia called. Did you hear a word I said? Gabriella shifted in her seat and glanced up, recognizing the concern in Sophia's eyes. What's wrong? You know you can tell me anything, Sophia insisted with a whisper. Nothing's wrong, Sophia. Why would you think that? Sophia's eyes fell onto the plate of chicken lasagna in front of Gabriella. You have been picking at that for the past 10 minutes and haven't responded to anything I've said. Sophia sighed. Are you not happy to be here now? Gabriella struggled to smile. Of course I am. You know that. Why don't I believe you, Gabby? Gabriella exhaled and laid her fork on the plate as she leaned back against her chair. Sophia, I love your home and the garden outside. I can't wait for us to start working on it together, she smiled. Gabby, you said that an hour ago when we got here from the airport. Sophia sighed in frustration. How long have we known each other, Gabby? Since you and your parents moved to Jamaica. And you and I were, 10 years old? Yeah, Gabriella nodded. 10 years old, 2 years before we started high school. We were inseparable throughout high school. Even when my parents and I moved back to Rome at the end of Dad's contract with the hotel, you and I never lost touch. Don't you think I know by now when something is bothering you? You always keep things from me and try to deal with them on your own. Do you know how much that hurts? You're right, Sophia. It's time I stopped. Gabriella inhaled. It dawned on me as I stepped through your front door that Mom and Dad are really gone. Her expression grew blank while her heart stabbed against her chest. She placed her hand on her heart, closed her eyes and took deep breaths to steady her nerves. Tears settled in her eyes. I know they are dead, but our home in Jamaica still had most of our belongings. Knowing that kind of felt as if they were there, which helped me get through this. Now I have to learn to embrace each day without them. Sophia stretched her hand across the table towards Gabriella and entwined her fingers through hers. Gabby, I want to remind you of something you shared with me about your parents. A smile formed on Sophia's face. You said your parents told you that if for any strange reason they were taken from you prematurely, they wouldn't want you to feel alone. They told you they saw how much my parents loved you. That you should embrace my family as your own without feeling guilty. And if Sam is still missing when they pass, you should not stay alone in Jamaica. They said to mourn them and then let them go, but move on, loving my family wholeheartedly as you did yours. Let my family help you hold on to hope that Sam will be found. Gabriella smiled and nodded as tears escaped her eyes. She wiped them away with one finger and said, I remember what Mom and Dad said, but after completing university I kept thinking, what if I leave and Sam returned? How will I know? I understand, but wasn't 4 years of waiting way too long? Sophia pointed out. The waiting wasn't an issue for me, really. What weighed on me was feeling discouraged. I knew if I had stayed any longer, I would have sunk into depression, she sniffled. It was then that Mom and Dad suggested having your family around to help me hold on to hope made sense. Gabby, Sophia's voice cracked by Gabriella's tears, you are my sister and I love you so much even if we're not blood related. I'm glad you're here now. We'll stay hopeful together, and my parents will fill you with encouragement to strengthen your faith in Sam's return. Let's say a prayer for Sam, Sophia gently suggested. All right, Gabriella nodded and closed her eyes. Father, she said, thank you for giving me hope to believe that Sam is still out there. I ask you, Lord, to send an angel to guide him and order his steps in your hands so that wherever he may be, he is still walking in your will. Let your angels guard him and give him discernment to know whom to trust and bring him back safely. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen, Sophia added. Gabriella picked up her glass of orange juice and took a deep breath. Sophia, there's a reason why I don't tell you things until I've had time to process them. Sophia leaned back into her chair. Really, and why is that? Do you remember our sleepovers back in high school where I shared something I did which I was afraid to tell Mom and Dad? Yeah, I remember. You went to your parents to ask their opinion about it and told me what they suggested I do. Sophia nodded. Well, I was still nervous about going to them about it, so I never did. A week later, my parents confronted me after having had dinner with your parents. Came up in their conversation. Mom and Dad told me I had disappointed them by not telling them, and a little hurt that I felt the need to keep it from them. I felt bad for that, knowing they loved me. Since that night, things changed for the better because you told them. However, I somehow felt scared to continue telling you important things, thinking you might go to the wrong person to talk about it. Why didn't you tell me before? I didn't want you to feel guilty because you did it with good intentions. Sophia sighed and smiled. Thanks for opening up to me. I will try hard not to let you down from now on, okay? I would love that, Gabriella smiled, because you're all I have to share everything with now. She took a deep breath. There is something that happened after Mom and Dad died that I want to share with you, but not now. I'll tell you about it after I have settled in. Great. I have an idea, Sophia enthusiastically chimed. What's that? Let's dance to celebrate your arrival. It always puts us in a good mood. It does, but since Mom and Dad died, it doesn't feel the same. They were the reason I grew to love dancing. Dad loved reggae music and Mom loved salsa. You would never know they came from different backgrounds. Watching them dance and seeing how they connected always made me feel as if I could have a special connection with my one true love. They were really great dancers, Sophia smiled, and you will have what they had as well. You will. How about we listen to some of our favorite Jorge Bozero songs while we talk? Yeah, we can do that, Sophia agreed, pushing her chair back. I'll go grab my phone, be right back. Gabriella picked up her fork and heaped lasagna onto it, savoring the taste. A few minutes later, Sophia sat back in her chair. This is delicious. Gabriella inhaled before she drank the rest of her orange juice. I know, Sophia smirked. She fiddled through her phone until she found her song selection and laid the phone on the table. Tell me again, how long have you lived here in Milan? Gabriella asked. 3.5 years now, and I'm glad I came here right after college. Rome can be so boring, she drawled. But Milan. She became filled with excitement as if she were savoring something delicious. Is full of life and fashion, and you know me and fashion. Gabriella smiled. I sure do, but don't get any ideas about giving me any makeovers anytime soon. I like my conservative look. Yeah, boring is what I call it, Sophia interjected. Well, I will keep my boring look. I enjoy dressing modestly, unlike you who likes to be the center of attention. Gabriella eyed her in jest. By the way, how often do you visit your parents in Rome? Sophia elaborated. I try to see them every 2 weeks. You know they didn't want me to move so far away from home, but when Dad heard the job offer at the accounting firm provided a great package, including health insurance, he gave me his blessing and convinced Mum to do the same. I remember you telling me over the phone and how your mum cried when you left. I know they are proud of you for wanting to be independent. I feel nervous to see them. Gabriella placed the fork down on the plate. The last 2 months have been so busy for me. Not only that, but I never had time to call them. Don't worry about that. I informed them about how you were, and they can't wait to see you. I want to surprise them, Sophia. Gabby, I thought for sure you would have followed in your parents' footsteps. Become a doctor like your dad or a nurse like your mom. Me? No way, I can't stand the sight of blood. I was born to be a painter. I thought you were a little confused when you told me you were also studying accounts at the university, Sophia recalled, puzzled. Well, you don't expect me to hire someone to do my accounts when I could do it myself, Gabriella stated. Did you get to display your paintings in the gallery at which you worked after completing university? I did, sold a couple and donated most of the rest before I arrived here, 3 of which I saved and brought with me. Gabriella pushed her chair back and stood up. She reached for her and Sophia's empty glasses. What are you doing? Sophia asked, knitting her brows. I'm feeling worn out now. I'm going to wash these before I shower and go to bed. Sophia mischievously glared at Gabriella. Gabby, you think I'm going to feed you and let you wash your dishes? You haven't even settled in yet. Go take a nice hot shower and get a good night's sleep. I won't argue with that. Gabriella gave Sophia a peck on the cheek. Good night, Sophia. Good night, Gabby. I'll give you the grand tour of Milan in a few days. You're going to love it. Can't wait for that, she beamed, sauntering off to the bathroom. Chapter 2. Gabriella's eyes fluttered open at the sensation of wet lips pressed against her cheek. Sophia's oblong face and bright, sparkly blue eyes stared down at her. Her loose black curls cascaded down her slender shoulders and tickled Gabriella's nose as they brushed against it. Buongiorno, sleepyhead, Sophia said with a broad smile. Gabriella groaned and rubbed her eyes before she sat up in bed. What's for breakfast? You tell me, Sophia laughed. Look through the refrigerator and make something. Gabby, I'm going to ask about getting you a job at my office soon, so start working on your Italian, okay? That way I'll be with you the entire time while you transition should you encounter nervousness, she smiled. You can always paint in your free time until you are ready to launch out as a big star. Sophia, don't go asking about a job yet. I need a month at least to improve what little I already know of the language, she muttered as she faintly smiled. I want to spend some time with your parents before I dive head-on into work. But thank you. Sophia pulled Gabriella into a tight embrace while Gabriella wrapped her arms around Sophia. Don't start crying now, Sophia, Gabriella whispered before Sophia eased out of their embrace. Sophia nodded. I won't. I'm so glad you're here for good now, she said, striding towards the door. I'm off to work now. I'll see you later, Gabby. Have a good day at work. Gabriella nodded and waved. I will, Sophia said, then closed the door behind her. Gabriella stepped out of bed and smiled as she stretched her arms. She was excited to see what the day had in store. She sauntered to the bathroom, freshened up, then went to the kitchen to prepare something to eat. A smile spread across her face when she found every ingredient she needed to make an omelette. While she whisked the eggs and milk together, she sang aloud as the words to one of her favorite William McDowell worship songs. Withholding nothing, popped in her head. She placed the bowl aside, diced a tomato and grated cheese. She pulled out a pack of matches from the utensil drawer to light a burner on the stove. Soon after melting butter in the frying pan, she poured her egg mixture in and stirred. Gabriella stared down at the golden-crusted omelette, pleased with her creation. She poured boiling water and dropped a chamomile tea bag into a mug. She sat at the dining table for a few minutes, lost in a daze. Soon after, she blessed her meal and ate. After taking the last bite of the omelette, she sipped her tea, allowing the chamomile's calming effect to relax her. Not giving her stomach any time to digest her food properly, she stood and walked to the sink to wash her dishes. As she rinsed the plate under the tap, she felt a tingling sensation in her hands. She placed the dish in the drainer and started opening and closing her hands in a swift motion. Itching to paint, are we? She uttered to herself. Drying her hands on the towel, she walked to the kitchen door and pushed it open. This is perfect, very peaceful. Manicured perfectly was the grass that covered the backyard center, stopping at a wooden platform at the back, which housed a table. Rose bushes lined the entire left wall. The wind brushed past her, awakening her senses to the rose's sweet aroma. Gabriella walked across the yard to the rose bushes and leaned forward, her nose inches away from them. As she inhaled, her lips curled into a smile. She stood and picked a single rose and then strolled to the opposite side of the backyard. Gabriella grabbed the hammock tied between two thick, shady trees to steady it before nestling into it. She lied back, brought the rose to her nose and closed her eyes. Another brush of wind blew by Gabriella again, this time stronger than before, causing the hammock to sway. It's a shame spring is almost over. I would be happy with this cool air and warm sunshine all year round. Summer was way too hot last time I was here, she lamented while raising herself upright. Gabriella exhaled as she stood and stretched to loosen her stiff muscles. She walked back inside the house and headed to her bedroom. Lying her suitcase onto the floor, she unzipped and flung the flap open. She tossed her clothing from the suitcase onto her bed and carefully removed the 3 paintings. There you are, she said to herself, lifting her sketchpad along with a pouch containing her favorite paint brushes and drawing pencils from the bottom of the suitcase. Gabriella was in no mood to repack everything into the suitcase. She replaced only the paintings and pulled back the zipper to close it. "I'll sort you out later," she said to the heap of clothes on the bed. Gabriella walked out to the backyard to sit in the hammock and sketched away. Sometime later her stomach growled. Staring down at her watch, it startled Gabriella to see it was 1:25 p.m. Wow, time sure flies when you're doing something you love. Doesn't feel like it's been 3 hours. Closing the sketchpad, she packed up the pencils and strolled into the kitchen. She searched the fridge and cupboards for something to prepare for lunch. She made a ham sandwich and added every vegetable she could find, and, of course, cheese. Before walking out of the kitchen, she poured herself a tall glass of orange juice. She noticed an Italian phrase book on the coffee table. "Sophia," she said with a chuckle, shaking her head. She placed the glass of orange juice next to it and sank into the sofa. Gabriella bit deep into her sandwich and stared at it. She wondered when Sophia had bought the book. Although she felt grateful, she didn't feel all that enthused to learn from a How to Speak Italian book. With being a classroom pupil, learning on her own bored her, but she decided she'd try, but only after she had finished her lunch. After she ate and washed the dishes, Gabriella sat back on the sofa, book in hand. She flipped through its pages and made mental notes of the important aspects to know for beginners. After about 30 minutes, she stared at one page, completely stuck in the scenario. "That's enough for now. My eyes need a break," she muttered and stood. Gabriella walked to the front of the house and out onto the driveway to view the neighborhood. It seemed quiet. There were quite a few beautiful houses and it looked like a safe community. Few persons were out that day. At work and school, perhaps, she thought to herself. A young man soon walked by her gate. "Buongiorno," he said with a smile and continued walking. "Buongiorno," she responded, smiling back. Seems friendly too, she thought. Walking back inside the house, she turned on the television but only flicked through the channels. The Italian channels were not interesting and she understood very little. Even the Spanish and English channels were uninteresting. Her eyelids grew heavy. Unbeknownst to her, she dozed off. A gentle tapping on her shoulder woke her. "For how long have you been out?" Sophia whispered near her ear. "I don't know." Gabriella rubbed her eyes and sat upright on the couch. All the channels must have planned something today. They were all such a drag. "I stayed awake for as long as I could, but in the end, sleep won." She chuckled at her silly remark. "Hey then. Let's go out? I would have loved for us to go dancing, but after what you said yesterday, we can go out for dinner and maybe stroll through the park afterwards." "That sounds great, and Sophia, we will go dancing again. Give me time to get used to Mum and Dad's absence." Sophia smiled and nodded. "Go change and please wear something sexy and hurry," Sophia said as she dashed to her room. Gabriella followed suit and in no time, changed into a black flare dress paired with low heels. She felt pleased with her choice as she walked back into the living room. Sophia sat and waited, sporting a white dolly high-low top with fitted blue jeans and knee-high boots. She jumped to her feet as Gabriella approached and gave her a look of disapproval. "No, no, 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 no. Black is too depressing and reminds me of death. It might invoke sad thoughts in you. But I like black, Sophia. Even so, wear something with cheerful colors tonight. They will help brighten your mood." Gabriella sighed and spun around towards her room. "Wait." Sophia grabbed her hand. "Come with me." Inside Sophia's room, Gabriella sat on the bed. She watched as Sophia searched the closet from where she emerged, clutching a beautiful sky blue dress. "How about this?" Sophia asked as she held up the dress. Gabriella smiled and took the dress from her hand. "It's lovely, not too short either." She rose from the bed and ran off to change. Both women could pass for sisters undoubtedly. Both were petite, merely over 5'2" in height, and had slender physiques. They had shoulder-length black curls and oblong faces. Gabriella, however, had a much darker tone than that of Sophia's. She had round brown eyes, a small nose, and full lips that made her smile contagious. They drove to a restaurant close to the park, which stood on the building's second floor, providing a beautiful city view. Looking out from the seat at which she sat, Gabriella could see how busy the city was. The motorists filled the intersections and crossways. The park stood across the road near the restaurant. Its gates looked grand and ancient yet strong. Gabriella could see the tall trees on the inside, which overshadowed everything from the distance from where she sat. Sophia tapped her hand to get her attention as the waiter arrived to take their orders. "I would like the chicken parmesan," Gabriella said softly with a smile. "And I want the chicken, tomato and mozzarella gnocchi. Bring us 2 glasses of wine as well, please." After the waiter left, Sophia stared at Gabriella with a wide-toothed grin. "What is it, Sophia?" "I called Mum this afternoon and told her we're coming this weekend to visit." Sophia danced a little dance. "She is so excited." "Why did you do that, Sophia? Did I not tell you I wanted to surprise them?" "You never let me do anything myself," said Gabriella, staring at Sophia with a frown. "I'm sorry, but you know how I get when I'm excited. Forgive me, please." Sophia gave her a pitiful look, triggering an arch in Gabriella's brow. "Well, that's okay. I won't tell you anything when I plan to surprise anyone." "You would ruin that for me too," Gabriella said, feigning a smile. "Oh, come on, I said I was sorry." "Oh, I know how to make you forgive me," Sophia teased with excitement. "Really?" Gabriella scoffed. "Jorge Bozero." Her eyes widened and a smile spread across her face. She noticed Gabriella narrow her eyes. "Okay, I'm listening." Gabriella's interest grew. "He is coming to Milan next week." Sophia blurted from the excitement that bubbled up inside her. Gabriella stared at her with a blank expression. "I don't believe you, Sophia. That's a terrible prank to pull on someone." "Okay," Sophia said with one hand raised, surrendering. "I was going to surprise you, but since I interfered with your surprise and made you angry, this was the only way to gain your forgiveness." She dipped into her handbag and pulled out 2 tickets, then slid them across the table in front of Gabriella. Gabriella gasped at the sight of the 2 tickets. She stared at them before she picked them up and read the details. "Sophia, how did you get these?" She then laughed. I forgive you." Sophia gave her a winning smile. "A friend from the office won them, but a family emergency came up, and since she knew I liked his music, she gave them to me." You should have seen the way I kept kissing her face from my excitement, which had her laughing so hard. Gabriella laughed aloud. By the time dinner came, they were both in high spirits. "This chicken parmesan tastes so delicious. Oh, I love melted cheese." Gabriella lifted her napkin and wiped her mouth before she sipped her wine. "Oh, you don't have to convince me," Sophia chuckled and licked the sauce from her bottom lip. "What's this called again?" Gabriella asked as she dipped her fork into Sophia's food. "Chicken, tomato and mozzarella gnocchi. Tastes good, doesn't it?" "It does. I'll have to order that next time we go out." Gabriella raised the wine glass to her lips again, taking a longer sip. "Hey, have you forgotten it's wine you're drinking, not water? You can't gulp it down so fast," Sophia exclaimed. Gabriella laughed. "I know, but sometimes I can't fully enjoy its taste from one sip. I know it sometimes goes to my head." Sophia rubbed her tummy and exhaled. "I am stuffed." Gabriella giggled. "Good thing we're walking down to the park afterwards. It's the best way to work off this food." "Sure is." Sophia spun in her chair, scanning the restaurant for their waiter. After spotting him, she signaled him for their bill. She returned her attention back to Gabriella. "Ready to go?" "In a few minutes, Sophia. I need a drink of water first." "How do you ask that in Italian? Did you not read anything in the phrase book I left you today?" "I started to but fell asleep." "Tell me." "Posso bere un bicchiere di acqua," Sophia said. Gabriella repeated the Italian translation and Sophia laughed. "Are you sure you don't want me to ask for the water for you instead? You may get a funny look from the waiter," she teased. "Laugh all you want. You sounded funny while you were learning how to speak patois back home." She felt pleased as she giggled and repeated the phrase. Gabriella stretched out for the bill as the waiter placed it on the table, soon before meeting Sophia's look of disapproval. She pulled her hand back and watched as Sophia dug deep into her purse for cash. Gabriella stared at the waiter, remembering she wanted to ask for some water. "Can I have a water, please?" she proudly said in Italian, secretly relieved the waiter didn't oddly stare at her. "Make that too," Sophia added, handing the bill to the waiter. He smiled. "Sure, ladies." After having left the restaurant, Gabriella and Sophia marched arm in arm, giggling down the street. As they crossed the street to the park, Gabriella's heel twisted in the stone pavement, wringing her ankle and causing her to fall. With an onto her, Sophia came down. Two men who were walking behind them rushed to assist them. "Are you ladies all right?" the men asked in unison. One man lifted Sophia off Gabriella while the other scooped Gabriella off the ground. The man carried Gabriella to a nearby light post in front of the park. She leant her uninjured side against the post and held on to balance herself. The intense pain she felt in both her left arm and leg caused her to squeeze her eyes tightly. A cold gust of air brushed against her skin, causing her to groan aloud. Unscathed, Sophia scurried to Gabriella after the men assisted her. "Gabby, you're bleeding," her voice trembled. Sophia pulled hand sanitizer wipes from her bag and cleaned the blood from Gabriella's bruised knee. "Oh, ouch!" Gabriella yelped. "I'm sorry, Gabby, but I have to clean these cuts to prevent infections," she whispered as she gently cleaned the wound. Gabriella bit her lip hard while Sophia cleaned the bruise on her knee, but as Sophia stood and tried to do the same to her wrist, Gabriella flinched and screamed. "Sophia, leave it. I think I may have twisted it. Get me some pain tablets before you touch my wrist again," she winced. Seems like the walk in the park was not meant for today. Gabriella mustered up the courage to laugh. "We'll come back," Sophia assured her. "Can we help you ladies back to your vehicle?" one man offered. Yes, thank you," Sophia answered, hardly giving the man time to finish his sentence. At that moment, a vehicle passed and stopped a distance in front of them. "Vincent!" the driver yelled. "Excuse me, ladies," he said as he ran towards the vehicle. The other young man stood next to Sophia as they waited for his friend to return. "I'm John and that is Vincent," he said, introducing himself and his friend, both of which looked to be in their late 20s. "I'm Sophia and she's Gabriella. Pleased to meet you both." Sophia smiled with her eyes fixed on John. Gabriella turned her head towards him and smiled, trying her best to be pleasant, despite the pain she endured. "Nice to meet you too, John." She averted her eyes to watch the vehicles pass and groaned once again. "Are you all right, Gabriella?" Sophia asked. Without turning to Sophia, Gabriella frustratingly whispered, "Yes, I'm fine." The traffic light on the street turned red, resulting in a pickup truck halting dead in its tracks directly in front of the group. Gabriella's eyes locked with the male passenger sitting in the back. A smile spread across the young man's face, and Gabriella felt a warmness flooding her heart, a feeling she had not felt in a long time. She soon felt a smile rest on her face as if nothing else mattered at that moment. He felt a connection. Seconds later, the traffic light turned green. Before the vehicle slowly rolled away, the man raised his hand and waved to her, and Gabriella waved back without giving it a second thought. She watched him vanish from her sight and felt as if her heart shattered. Chapter 3. Such gentle eyes, and that smile. Who could stay mad at someone with such a smile? Gabriella pondered the entire ride back to the restaurant's car park. She was so lost in her thought. Everything else seemed distant. "Gabriella! Gabriella!" Sophia called. No response. Sophia gently tapped her on the shoulder, bringing her out of her daze. "Gabriella," Sophia repeated softly this time. "Let's go." Gabriella watched as Sophia exited the car and stepped aside, allowing Vincent to reach inside to help her get out. "Grazie," she told Vincent after he carried her to Sophia's car and sat her onto the passenger's seat. She did not know what else to say, knowing very little of the language as thoughts of him riddled her mind. After she and Sophia said their goodbyes to Vincent, John and the other friend whose car had driven them to the car park, they went home. Gabriella crawled onto the bed and allowed Sophia to place a bandage on her knee while she waited for the painkillers to kick in. "You couldn't help yourself, could you?" she snapped at Sophia. "What?" Sophia innocently replied. "Tonight was supposed to be about us. You flirted with that guy, completely disregarding the fact that I was in serious pain." "You're right, I'm sorry." Gabriella let out a breath. "I'm sorry for snapping at you too." Sophia's lips curled into a smile at Gabriella's remark. "But honestly, Gabby, wasn't all three guys gorgeous?" Her eyes danced with excitement. Gabriella smiled. "Yes, they were." You can't blame me too much for showing interest in John, especially if he is also interested in me. We are not getting any younger. I want to fall in love and get married and be happy like Mom and Dad. I want to fall in love, get married and be happy like your parents too, Sophia. But for me, it's not just about physical attributes when I meet a guy. I need someone I connect with on a spiritual level as well. God must come first in both our lives. You and I are only 25. We have time to figure things out. Gabby, I know that good character is important too. I want it in a guy that is also gorgeous, and I do believe they exist. Sophia smirked. Gabriella laughed. And what are you laughing at? I saw you drooling over that guy in the pickup. Didn't think I noticed, did you? Sophia added. I was not drooling, she defended. He felt so familiar to me, and besides, I doubt I'll ever see him again. Only fate could bring us together. Gabriella winced as she tried to move her wrist. Sophia, I think I might have sprained my wrist. Do you have a compression wrap in your kit? I have everything in this kit. The result of growing up clumsy, she teased and laughed. Let me clean up your elbow first, then I will wrap your wrist, okay? All right, Gabriella said, stretching her arm to Sophia. As Gabriella lay in bed after Sophia left, she hoped the pain would subside by Saturday morning, which was only a day away. They planned to take the train to Rome to visit Sophia's parents. Soon enough, her thoughts shifted to him, and as she closed her eyes, she kept seeing those eyes and that smile. Saturday morning arrived. Gabriella was pleased that her knee and elbow felt much better. Although her wrist was still sore, she refused to let it rob her of enjoying her plans with Sophia's parents, Rosa and Dominique. They left the house at about 7 a.m., after enjoying a light breakfast of buttered toast and hot chocolate. The girls arrived at the train station at about 7:30 a.m. to catch the 8 a.m. train, which took nearly 3 hours to get to Rome. They took a cab to the house on the Via dei Fori Imperiali. It was the road in the center of Rome, one of which lies in a straight line from the Piazza Venezia to the Colosseum. The Colosseum was one of their favorite places to visit while in Rome. As the cab drove into the house's driveway, they heard footsteps approaching. It was Rosa and Dominique. After paying the taxi driver and exiting the cab, the girls rushed straight into their arms. Oh, Gabriella, Rosa said, throwing her arms around her, we're so happy you're finally here. We've been so worried about you being all alone in Jamaica after we left. Dominique pulled her into his arms the minute Rosa released her. He kissed her cheek and cupped her face into his hands as he said, My dear child, I have missed you. I have missed you both too, Gabriella expressed with a big smile. What, no one missed me? Sophia teased and chuckled before they pulled her into a group hug. Let's go inside, Dominique said, ushering them towards the house. As soon as they entered the house, Rosa asked, What do you girls want to drink? A tall glass of ice-cold orange juice, Sophia answered, happy to be inside the house. And a glass of ice water for me, Gabriella added, fanning herself with her hands. Sitting in the living room, they talked about the good times they spent together, and the girls talked about their train ride coming over. Mom, Dad, we seem to attract men everywhere we go. We are not dressing sexy or slutty to attract them either. You know how we dress, Sophia bragged with amusement in her voice. Well, you two girls are beautiful. I would think of it as strange if men did not find you both attractive, Dominique answered as his wife agreed. Gabriella smiled and added, Even yesterday 2 men came to our rescue. Rescue? What happened? Rosa interrupted. Clumsy Gabby twisted her ankle as we crossed the street, fell and pulled me down with her, Sophia teased Gabriella. Gabriella glared at Sophia. Did you girls get hurt? Dominique asked. Not me, clumsy Gabby, Sophia smirked. Sophia, my wrist really hurt, do not tease about that. I don't want to be mad at you today, Gabriella warned. Oh, never mind, Sophia, she can't help herself with that mouth of hers, said Rosa. Oh, sweetheart, we were so excited to see you we hadn't noticed your wrist. Is it broken? Rosa asked. No, a little sore, Gabriella told them, lifting her arm for them to inspect it. Should be okay in a couple of days. I had it wrapped the other night, but it felt too uncomfortable, so I removed it. Anyway, this morning on the train, Gabby and I were singing and dancing to a Jorge Bozero song. 2 guys from another compartment came to our door and stood there watching us, Sophia blurted out, desperately drawing attention to herself. We noticed them because we heard their chuckling. They also asked to sit with us for a while. Imagine that, said Sophia. It's true they did, Gabriella said, picking up from where Sophia left off, and would not leave when we told them no. However, they turned out to be decent men, although they flirted with us. When I refused to show interest in the man who sat beside me, he left and I had a nap. I can only imagine what Sophia did with the other guy while I was sleeping, she concluded, curiously glancing at Sophia. Wouldn't you like to know? Sophia taunted. You're so much like your father once was, Rosa said to Sophia, eyeing Dominique. What, Dad couldn't pass up on a beautiful face either? She asked, giggling. His eyes averted a few times before, but I wasn't giving him up without a fight. So, I put on the old charm and pulled him right back. Rosa dramatically replied, resulting in the laughter of the group. Mum, I would have never thought you'd share that with us while Dad was in the room, said Sophia. Neither would I, Gabriella added. Rosa looked at her husband and smiled. He smiled back at her. Well, you both need to know, and you, Sophia, will have to grow up one day. And when you do, you'll know that no one is perfect and we can't let these things negatively influence us. Rosa is right, Dominique added. I fell in love with your mum the moment she started as the new accountant at the hotel. She needed help with her Italian, and with me being the engineer, time did not allow me to see her much, but I made sure I found time every day to win her over. I don't get what you're saying, Dad, Sophia interrupted. Well, if you give me a chance you will, he answered and laughed. Anyways, my point is this. After tirelessly pursuing your mum and marrying her, my eyes still wandered. That did not mean I did not love her. Your mum put up with it all without becoming aggressive about it. She instead prayed for guidance. She asked the Lord to break whatever came over me. The Lord filled her with romantic notions that have kept my eyes only on her. He concluded before kissing his wife. So romantic, Gabriella remarked. Come on you two. Let's get lunch, then you can later go down to the Colosseum. I know how much you love visiting it, Rosa said. After lunch, Gabriella and Sophia rode with a family friend towards the Colosseum, armed with their cameras in hand. Sophia, do you remember the first time we visited here? Wasn't it exciting to be where they created so much history? Gabriella drifted off into her little world. It was exciting, but for me it was more about being where the actual gladiators fought. Not for the boring parts you find so fascinating, Sophia responded. What's wrong with learning about the slaves who built it or how they assign seating to people according to class? I bet you did not know that women had to sit at the top of the stadium, given they considered women the lowest class, unable to get a good view of the event. May have been for the best anyway, considering how gruesome the fights were. It amazes me how we get along so well, considering we have such different tastes, Sophia pondered. I guess it's the music and dancing that connects us, Gabriella chuckled, thinking there were no two people more bonded by music than they were. Gabby, do you want to know what happened on the train this morning? Sophia asked, her face washed with mischief. Gabriella anxiously replied, Tell me, hidden behind a nonchalant smile. Well, I scooted over next to him and kept smiling as he spoke. Then I pulled my hair back over my shoulder, exposing my neck to him, and watched him stare in excitement. Made me giggle, Sophia shared. I knew it. You couldn't resist, could you? You can't have them all, you know. Gabriella snickered as she walked away from Sophia. Gabriella asked a young man to take their photo. She laughed at herself and made the man laugh as she realized she did not know how to ask in Italian. Sophia, ask this handsome young man to take our photo, and for Pete's sake, please do not flirt with him. Sophia giggled and swung her hips from side to side as she walked towards them both, causing Gabriella to roll her eyes. The young man stared with excitement. She spoke very softly to him and he got into position to take the picture. After they posed for the camera, they thanked the young man. He was noticeably reluctant to leave until he got a phone number. Sophia obliged him and he walked off with a smile. Ouch. Sophia squealed when Gabriella struck her shoulder. What was that for? As if you don't know. Gabriella pulled on Sophia's arm with her good wrist. Come on, she smiled. Doesn't it feel wonderful being here together like this again? It sure does, Gabby, Sophia answered as they walked away from the Colosseum. And, Gabby, I flirt to feel men out. You know I have good instincts. I will choose someone you'll love, she whispered in Gabriella's ear. Gabriella smiled. They left the Colosseum and headed to the Monumento Nazionale of Vittorio Emanuele Museum, where the first king of Italy lived. They ended the day at the Spanish Steps and took more pictures before hailing a cab back to the house. Hot and exhausted by the time they arrived at the house, they bathed before having dinner with Rosa and Dominique. After they said goodnight, Sophia jumped on the bed next to Gabriella. "Gabby, I think it's time you stop calling my parents by their first names and call them Mum and Dad." "You do? Why?" "I could see the pain on their faces when you addressed them by their first names. Don't you know how much they love you? You're not only my best friend to them, you know. I keep telling you they love you as much as they love me, and I do not feel jealous about that. Will you do it for me, please?" Sophia pleaded. "All right, do you know if they have gone to bed already? I want to talk to them." Sophia replied, "They're in the living room watching their favorite show." "Okay, I'm going to talk with them. Be back in a bit." Gabriella scooted off the bed. "Go right ahead, but I'll be asleep when you get back." "Good night then." "Night, Gabby." A broad smile spread across Gabriella's face as she walked into the living room. Rosa and Dominique cozily sat next to each other on the couch with their eyes fixed on the television set. Gabriella took a deep breath and walked over to the sofa. She sat next to Rosa as they diverted their attention to her. "Can I talk to you both for a few minutes?" she asked. "Sure, Gabriella." Rosa reached for her hand. Dominique nodded in agreement. "I love you both so much. I thanked you for coming back to Jamaica when Mum and Dad died in that accident, for taking care of all the funeral costs and arrangements, not to mention funding my last year in the university in Jamaica." She took another deep breath. "I told you the overwhelming amount of paperwork was the reason I refused your invitation to transfer to the university in Italy. That was not the truth. I know you worried about me being alone, but I was more scared to leave, thinking that I would soon forget Mum and Dad." Her voice broke. Dominique scooted over and patted the space he occupied. "Come sit here, child," he said. Gabriella stood and went to sit between him and Rosa, and each held one of her hands. "We knew you would feel that way, but we wanted you to know you could come here if it came to be too much," Rosa said. Staring into Rosa's eyes, Gabriella's lips quivered as tears rolled down her cheeks. "I wanted to see if Sam would come back home too," her heart pounded. "I've waited 4 years for his return and he never came. Don't lose hope. He might still be alive. Have faith that God is watching over him and that you will see him again," Dominique said. "I do have faith. God continues to give me that hope. But fear still creeps in at times when it's been so long." "I know. We'll keep praying too," Rosa added. "Thank you, I'm going to bed now. I'll see you in the morning." "All right, Gabriella." Rosa gave her a quick hug. Gabriella turned to Dominique and hugged him. The next morning, Gabriella greeted Rosa and Dominique with a kiss on their cheeks. "Morning, Mum." "Morning, Dad," she smiled, leaving them happily stunned. After breakfast they all went to church. Rosa introduced Gabriella to her friends, some of which Gabriella remembered from her last visit. It felt good to see their faces again. When they returned home they spent a few hours by the pool and enjoyed the beautiful day. Rosa and Dominique were fit for their age. They made the girls realize how much they both needed to exercise. Gabriella followed Rosa into the kitchen to help prepare the evening meal, leaving Sophia and her dad chatting away by the pool. She enjoyed every moment she spent with Rosa. She felt so much of what she had with her mum. "I love you, Mum." She tipped on her toes and kissed Rosa on the cheek, almost bringing tears to Rosa's eyes. Rosa, overwhelmed with joy by Gabriella's kiss, pulled her into a warm embrace and uttered, "I love you too." Dinner was more festive, filled with more laughter than at the poolside. Dominique told them of some silly persons he worked with at the hotel, making sure to include the hotel's crazy guest stories. After dinner they went to the opera. Much to Gabriella's delight, they had noticed how fascinated she had been the first time they went. Sophia, not fond of the opera, made fun of the performers, causing Gabriella to frown at her. All right. I'll have a nap and let you enjoy the show," Sophia grunted. "That, I can live with," Gabriella said, hoping Sophia stuck to her words. Sophia smirked, shook her head and turned her back to Gabriella as she laid her head against the seat and closed her eyes. Later after the show, Rosa and Dominique dropped the girls off at the train station to catch the night train back to Milan. "We'll call you when we get home," Gabriella told them after she and Sophia hugged and kissed them. Rosa and Dominique watched them get on the train and waved until the train had exited the station. This time the train ride was quiet and gave the girls time to rest. Gabriella called Rosa after they got home to let her know they arrived safely. She and Sophia snuggled up on the sofa to watch a late film. Are you ready to see Milan? I have so much to show you, Sophia asked as Gabriella switched on the television. Yeah, definitely. How about this Saturday? Sophia enthusiastically asked. This Saturday, isn't that the day of Jorge Bozero's concert? Yes, but the concert is at 8 p.m. We can do so much before that and get home to shower and change. Gabriella thought for a moment. All right, she nodded. We have to get up early though. I don't want to rush anything. Good idea. 7 a.m. is an appropriate time for us to get ready and be at the first place a couple of minutes before it opens. Gabriella asked, where are we going first? Not telling. I'll only tell you it opens at 9 a.m. Mysterious are we? By 9 a.m. it is. Now let's finish this film and go to bed. This is where I must say goodbye for now. I've loved sharing these free chapters with you, but this is only the beginning of my story. I hope you'll continue this journey with me and see how God transformed my life, just as He can transform yours. What do you say? Will you take a leap of faith and trust that God brought this story to you for a reason? If He could use a donkey to rebuke a prophet, don't dismiss the idea that He can speak to you through Christian fiction. After all, even Jesus used parables to reveal truth. You can get your own paperback or ebook copy through the links in the description. Your support helps bring more uplifting stories to life. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe and share this with someone who might need it.